Hello, everybody. Welcome and thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in. We are very excited to introduce you to our very first episode of the CLYM podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Miguel Feliciano.
What's going on?
And I'm Josiah Sispansky, and we're glad that you chose to tune in and be a part of everything we're doing here in Jacksonville, North Carolina. We really quickly want to give a brief shout out to all of our pastors that have given us leadership and guidance. We want to thank Pastor Sispansky, Pastor King, and Pastor Spicer for their faithfulness, exampleship, and guidance, as well as Pastor Mitchell for his commitment and heart and impartation to our fellowship. They've brought up such a blessing to our fellowship, and we're thankful to be a part of it all. And of course, anything we do isn't possible without God's help. He's the foundation for all that we do, and we intend to continue to build on that foundation as we set our hearts to climb higher.
That is right, Josiah. Today, we have a special guest for you all today. We have our team leader, the Kevinator, Kevin Vargas, with us. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time, for taking some time out and spending some time here on the CLYM podcast. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So let's go ahead and kick it off. Let me ask you some things. Everything's been good though, right? Everything's been just chilling. Life's been good.
Yeah.
Good.
Starting to get hot, but
I know, bro. Stinking summer, man. All the heat and stuff.
It's that like North Carolina weather ain't no joke. It was like 30 degrees yesterday morning.
Yeah. Bipolar
sure.
weather, man. I
saw a tornado forming the other day. Then it went away. You don't know what to expect around here, so.
Oh, snap. All right, so let's go ahead. Let me ask you something. What is CLYM? What is CLYM Youth Group? What's your intentions of CLYM? What's the whole purpose of it?
Well, CLYM is for the teens. CLYM is it's for all you guys, and it stands for, it's a Christ-like youth ministry. The B is silent, so we just corrected an error, and so. But CLYM is Christ-like youth ministry, and it's a youth group for young believers who want to do something for God and want to go forward and pretty much climb higher and elevate their Christianity, and we do that through Christ. And so that's what CLYM is all about. We want to, it's a group where we want to be separate from the world. We're to be a lighthouse, a beacon. Be set apart from the world, and that's what we hope to accomplish through this youth group. Yeah,
and I think that's what kind of our aim is. You hit it right on the money, because our youth group is like, we want to be different from the world, because in order to be Christ-like, since our name stands for a Christ-like youth ministry, we have to be different from the world. We have to set differences. We have to set sacrifices, and give our lives to God so that He can help us and that He can help others. You know what I mean? So
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, and as a youth, I think it's really important that we're getting together and being around other people, not only our age but a little bit older, that can give us some guidance and direction. I know when I was a young teen, we didn't really have a lot of people that were much older than us, so we didn't really get to see the transition from being a teen to going into big church.
Yeah. I think, and that's one of the things the youth group offers is, I think some of the youth get lost inside the church, and I like the youth group because it's a separate place where you guys can grow together, edify one another, and uplift one another as a body of the youth. And so it's a great thing. I believe there's many great things that will come from this youth group.
So let me go ahead and ask you this: since you want us to be inspired and on fire for God, what was your inspiration for this group? What was the mastermind behind CLYM?
Well, it wasn't. We were in the Sunday school room, and we were trying to come up with a name, and we're trying to think of something together. It was everybody. We all we knew we wanted to do a youth group after we seen the one in Spring Lake last year, and so we were inspired a lot by them and their ministry and the work that they put into their youth group and their teen rally over there. And it inspired us to do one for ourselves. And I thought it was great to see them put that much effort into that, and see a finished product, and the time and effort they put into it. So
Right on. Yeah, it's like Spring Lake. We really want to shout y'all boys out, because y'all boys are y'all on fire for God. We really appreciate that, because now we're doing a podcast because of that. You know what I mean? And so we really thank you and appreciate all of you guys in Spring Lake. We thank Pastor Deontay Scott for doing that teen rally and stirring up a fire in us. You know what I mean? And obviously we want to thank Pastor Etiero for allowing this in his church. And we really, really do appreciate it, because this podcast kind of wouldn't be possible. It wouldn't been an idea, because those boys up there, they got something going on. So really appreciate them.
Yeah, and they got the next the 2024 teen rally coming up this June 13th through the 15th. So
Yeah.
just keep that in mind if you're listening.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Make sure you guys are all popping out. And just, it's so good to be a part of a body like that. To be able to be encouraged and encourage others, I think is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have another question for you. What are some things that CLYM will offer to the youth?
Things that CLYM will offer. Well, obviously, hope. We want to offer that. We want to offer salvation. And that's the most important thing that we can offer. That's the greatest thing that we can give is, the salvation of Christ, and offer that to lost teens, to the youth. Hopefully, people can see this youth group and they can be encouraged that, hey, these young people are Christ-like, and there's something different about them, and they can see the strength in Christ, in their problems, their addictions, or their, problems that they have, if they're, have anxiety or guilt or whatever they're dealing with, they can see the strength of God through you guys, and they can, be encouraged, and hopefully they will want to be a part of this youth group.
Yeah, and I kind of caught that fire from this guy named Juan Anthony. This dude was like he explained his testimony. He was like 16 years old, I think 16 or 17, and he got saved in Puerto Rico, and he got sent from New York. I think he started to learn Spanish and stuff from this guy, and ever since he's been on fire and stuff. But he's here in the church, and he's older now. He has kids and stuff, and like looking at him, and that kind of like inspires me to be like that, and it kind of inspires us people in CLYM to kind of have that environment. Everybody have a bond together, be on fire for God, and make a stand and make a difference in this world.
Yeah, shout out to Don Juan.
Don Juan, baby.
Don Juan.
Yeah, and so there's other things that obviously we offer. Salvation, we want to offer that to any youth coming through the doors. But we also, we're going to have ministries within this ministry. Obviously, we're doing this podcast, and we're doing, we have a song service, and we have different pastors coming through who preach to you guys, and which I very much enjoy. It's one of my favorite parts about CLYM is just hearing our pastors come through,
Sure.
our evangelists come through.
For sure.
Yeah, we are so blessed over here with all the pastors that we get.
Yeah.
And especially with all the revivals and things, people just coming through, and just the amazing, amazing men of God coming in. We get to hear some of that fresh anointing. And even if it's somebody that you didn't hear about before, there was something that they were talking about in another sermon a couple of days ago about that it's not about the person preaching, but it's about how God is using them to reach you. And I was like, man.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So even if we weren't having these amazing pastors come through, I just think it's such a blessing that they are. Just the experience, and then the things that they've been through can often be very relatable, especially to us as the youths, seeing that it doesn't just start here and immediately people can take it and go, and you can make the long run. Like Pastor Mitchell, our founder,
Mm-hmm.
he didn't stop being a Christian. He stayed the straight and narrow road, and I think that's such an inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely an inspiration for me, for you, for everybody else, because it shows that even through all the stuff that he went through, especially in his times, there was a whole time where that church was getting persecuted and stuff, and for so being a cult, which is crazy, because only God can change you like that. There's no one else that can change you. There's no money. Money can't change you. Drugs can't change you. Alcohol can't change you. It's only God that can change you like 100. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's
and give you that 180-degree turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked we're watching the memorial stones, and I really enjoyed that Pastor Mitchell, he took notes of like when he would see God move, and he would write it down, and he'd be like, oh, I saw this, and he would write it down, and now we can reference it in the series that Greg Mitchell, his son, is referencing it throughout the series, like all these these times he was God spoke to him, and it's like amazing. Like he really focused and determined and set his heart on Christ.
Absolutely. I do think that's really important. Not taking for granted the things that God does in our lives, even in the daily. Like we see miracles all the time, but sometimes growing up in church, you sort of become immune to it. Not immune, but you're numb to it and you don't really notice it. So I feel like it's just something
It's expected.
Yeah. Like when an evangelist comes and you get a word, it becomes just like another thing. But I feel like that's something like outside looking in that's so special and rare. And I love that. Oh my goodness. And oftentimes, like I've had a lot of words that have given such direction and guidance in life, especially in things that I was dealing with that nobody could have known, but that it was just God's timing.
Yeah, we're so blessed to have people have gone before us and paved the way that we can even, have more, understanding, and it's like their ceiling is our floor.
Yeah.
And we're really blessed,
Oh yeah.
The second, third generations, they're so blessed. They know so much, and they're capable of so much, and it's a blessing of the previous generation.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that's such a good thing that we're catching the vision of the previous generations and the bigger picture of what we're doing, which is evangelism and to spread that gospel.
Absolutely. Yep.
So let me ask you, what was your idea and like the logo and stuff design like behind that stuff? Because our logo is a simple mountain, and then it has CLYM, but it's not spelled like CLIMB. It's spelled CLYM. Somebody would probably say, "Oh, it's CLYM. It's CLYM." Like, I get it, but CLYM. That'd be funny, dude. But what was your idea and like the design behind that? Why did you like decide to spell it out CLYM instead of like something different? You know what I mean?
Well, because it's spelled wrong.
Yeah.
It's comb. It's COMB. Where's the no, I'm joking. Where did the B come from? But no. So obviously, the idea behind that was that when we're more Christ-like, when we take on His Spirit, when we take on His character and His characteristics, we can climb higher. We become more like Him, and we can climb higher in our faith. We can, He could take us to places and to heights that we've never experienced.
Yeah.
And, we want more of Christ. We should want more of Christ. And ultimately, we want to make it to the ultimate summit, which is heaven. But we are climbing to get there. There's obstacles, there's distractions, diversions that hell is throwing our way. And we have to stay focused on the straight and narrow, on the truth of the gospel, and keep our eyes locked to heaven.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we're climbing. And what better way to do that together.
Right.
And so for the logo, we obviously knew we were going to use a mountain, but the logo needed a lot of work. We went through a bunch of different logos.
So many.
Some horrible, some too complicated, some from old people like myself, I guess. I'm
not that old. How old are you?
I'm 33.
33? That's
Yeah,
not that old.
so I'm breaking down, man.
Listen,
I'm just messing.
When you hit 40, that's old.
Yeah,
it's like your body like starts to change, dude.
Yeah, I think 30.
Disclaimer for all the 40-year-olds listening: he doesn't mean that.
No. I don't mean it like that.
That. His name is Miguel. If you see him at conference,
Miguel Feliciano, he lives at.
I'm hiding night services.
Yes. Yeah. So so we had a couple designs that we went through as a youth group, and we finally came up with. Well, Miguel, you came up with the design, the logo, and we liked it, and we stuck with that one, and we're using it to this day, and and I think it's great. It's a great logo. And so that's where the idea of the logo came from.
Shout out Miguel Chuch Feliciano,
The
artiste.
Feels so weird.
Our design team.
Yeah.
And he's the complete design team.
So yeah, you mentioned
Design team of one.
You mentioned being Christ-like, right? What are some goals that would be good for us to set to become more like Christ?
Let me give a shout out actually to some other people that did help.
Baby.
We did have a couple people help with like the shirts. We had Shauna help with the shirts, and your sister, Nelly, and a few more people. I wasn't super involved with that, but you guys did an awesome job. You made the flyer too. It was awesome. But back to your question, which was.
Oh Lord.
Oh Lord.
What are some things that we should do and align our lives to be more Christ-like, or we could do?
Oh yeah. Obviously, we need to constantly check our own hearts. The Bible talks about ceasing without praying without ceasing. We need to seek God. Seek His Word. If we don't know His Word, if we don't know the gospel, message, we don't know what's in the book, then how are we going to have guidance? How are we going to know which way to go? That's where He's telling us what to do, what to pray for. Hold on to His promises. Where do we find those? We find those in the Word of God. And so we need to search our own hearts and things like that. And we need to love. We need to obviously let Him. He loves us. He loved us first. But we get saved. We need to learn to love people, love your neighbor, love each other like He cares for us. And that's one of the greatest things. That's one of the greatest aspects of God is love. The love that He had for us. He's on the cross. Forgive them. He's getting beaten and bruised, and he still loved those who were stabbing Him in the side. Whipping Him and hitting the nails through His feet and His hands. So that's the greatest characteristic we could take on of Christ.
Yeah, it's like you said, the Bible I think is spot on when it says praying without ceasing, because in order to be Christian, you got to be Christ-like. You got to dig deep. You got to study the Word. You got to read the Word. You got to want God. God is open to you coming to us. You know what I mean? But He's not going to force it upon us. You know what I mean? We have to be open to it. We got to dig deep for it. We got to go get it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like almost like a businessman. A businessman has to go get that money. He has to go get those stocks, and he has to go get all of that. It's the same way in the church. I believe that, God's going to be there, but He's not going to force it upon you. You got to be praying. You got to be reading your Bible. You got to be outreaching. You got to be on fire.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I heard in a sermon recently, the pastor was mentioning following Christ, and as you said, we got to follow Him closely. And he was saying, when you're not following Christ close, and there's a distance and a gap in between you and Christ, what are you filling that gap with?
Yeah.
And I think that's important for us to look into as Christians and see what could we be improving and changing. Obviously, our salvation is not through our works, but through our faith. But with that, we can do things to make ourselves better examples, and we can limit things that would further us from Christ. And I think that's important for us to do, to be more Christ-like.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So moving on to a different spot, what do you think was the bigger picture of CLYM? What do you want our bigger picture to be of this youth group?
Well, the bigger picture is evangelism. We want to help reach the world for Christ. We want people to be influenced by what we're doing. We want this to help. We want this to help the youth within CLYM. I believe we need a bond in the church before we can go outside the four walls. If we have a bond within the church, then we can be stronger. There's strength in numbers, and so we want to strengthen one another. But also, have the spirit of evangelism. And, this is just one ministry of many that we are participating in our fellowship, in this church. There's many ministries, and they're all geared towards evangelism.
Yeah.
Pastor Sospansky was sent here, years ago, because of his calling to see souls saved, go ye into all the world and preach the gospel. And we're here helping him facilitate that, that work. And so this ministry is just another sect of other ministries in the church.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the bigger picture is evangelism. But obviously it's to help those and help youth, who are, struggling with guilt, anxiety, other things, where they can see Christ in us, in the youth, because the world needs to see the youth, save youth, young youth saved.
Man, that's so true, but it's so awesome that we all are in it together for this greater goal of just spreading the word of God like a wildfire.
Yeah.
But really quick, before we have to head out, I was wondering if you could just give a brief bit of your testimony so the listeners can understand who our glorious leader is.
Easy with the compliments.
He's getting bigger as we go.
I'm like, let me straighten my tie up. I'm messing. So my testimony, I wasn't a bad kid. I don't feel like I was a bad person growing up. My family actually came to church when I was young. They backslid. My parents did when I was 10 years old. And obviously I didn't have a car, so I left with them.
Pull out the whip and just start going, like your Power Wheels or something.
Yeah. Yeah, driving. I did, I left. I ended up leaving and, just got involved in things in the world, just, things, partying and just trying to fit in and looking for acceptance. And, didn't find it. I knew of Christ at a young age, and I always felt Christ pull, or, I knew of God. And so it always pulled at me. I always knew God. I was convicted throughout life, at certain times of my life, but, I never got it right. I didn't have the full understanding. And, I got to a point where it's just, my life was a mess, and I was depressed and going through a bunch of things, suicidal things, I don't know if, the extent of if I would have done that, but, I was dealing with a lot of stuff, and, I just, I knew where to go. And, I came to church, and I got saved at a concert scene one night. And, I don't even know what they did. I kind of went knowing I was going to get saved that night. And I just didn't even listen to nothing. And I went up there, and I remember, man, I prayed, and a weight was lifted off me. I just felt like, man, God forgave me. And it was just amazing moment. I prayed with, I don't even know if he knows it or remembers it, but Aaron Dominguez, he prayed with me that night. And yeah, that was it.
Shout out Aaron Dominguez.
Yeah, shout out to Aaron Dominguez, man.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. That shows how important the little ministries are. Like, that could happen to a teen coming into church one day. I'm like, man, I don't have anything to do. It's a Wednesday night. Let me just check this out. My friend invited me, and they come and hear some preaching over here, and they could get saved. And I think as our bigger goal, that's just so powerful. And I really want to thank you for giving that platform and that place where teens can go, and it's not necessarily the bigger church, which I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I feel like people can get lost inside of there, and they feel like they don't belong. And I've definitely seen that happen, where people are like, oh, nobody really knows me here. I don't belong into a ministry. I'm too young to do anything, but I'm too old to be in children's church. So this is just like this weird
they think
middle
they're this
ground.
like awkward stage almost.
Right. Which
Mm-hmm.
being a teenager in as itself is an awkward stage.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important that we have something like this and give them a place to be teens.
Yeah, I think teens go through a lot, and older people, even me included, can look at the teens and be like, hey, you guys aren't going through real struggles, but the youth in that time is, man, there it is. You're trying to find your identity. You're trying to find your place in, you know, Christ, if you're in the church, you know, and you're working on a career, you know, in the future, you know, there's things that you're going through that are, you know, you're dealing with that adults aren't dealing with, you know, and so I believe it's relative. You know, I believe the teens, you know, young people are going through things, you know, trying to find acceptance and things like that, you know. Those things are hard, you know, when you put it in perspective. So, yeah.
Right. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for coming out today. I really just want to thank you for your time and give another thanks to the Door Jacksonville Fellowship for giving us this place to do this, and really want to give a quick shout out again to our pastors for their wisdom and guidance and getting us to the point where we can do this and not be babbling on around some random stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, we really do appreciate all of our pastors, Pastor Sispansky, Pastor Dusty, Pastor King. We greatly appreciate you guys, like all that you've done. You guys inspire us. You guys help us each and every day in our walks. Any like stupid questions, you guys answer it, and like you guys really just help us out. So we really do appreciate it.
Yeah.
And thanks for our listeners for tuning in to our very first episode of the CLYM podcast. We're hoping for some more in the future, some different topics coming at you, some different guest stars coming at you with different perspectives, and once again, just want to give a really big thank you to all of you for coming out tonight. Thank you very much. Good night.